Hello. So you can see that there's these three images in front of you, and I'm sure you've been looking at them for a while. So the answer is, what do they have in common? They are all types of scale, okay? And that's what this lesson is about, as you've got as the title, okay? So I want to talk about the different geographical scales, which sounds really difficult, but is actually fairly straightforward. So I've got three different scales on the board here, and it's about the scale at which we study geography, at which we study anything really, okay? So we can study people and places all over the world, or we can study people and places in one specific area or town, okay? So the different way in which we look at this is called the scale at which we look at this. So for example here, we've got the global or international scale in front of us. We've got a world map, and there are problems or issues that face the entire world. So we would call these global problems or international problems. So they are problems at a global scale, okay? A good example is climate change. It's happening at a global scale. However, different impacts of climate change happen at different scales. So, for example, a longer growing season where people can plant crops earlier and harvest more in a season is going to occur in this area in Russia. Okay, so that's a specific problem to that area, but you could argue that the sea level rise is a particular problem around coastlines of like the UK. All right, so that's more regional scales. All right, so here we have an example of the global regional. So it's a huge area. We're looking at East Africa, Madagascar, and the Middle East here, okay? So this is a global regional scale. So this is a region of the globe. But we could say Southeast Asia, or we could say North America, okay? Or the Americas as one. So it's not quite global, but it affects the Americas. Or you could say European or Scandinavian if you're looking at Northern Europe, okay? So that's global regional. Next one here, a national scale, is when we're just looking at one country, okay? So we'd be looking at more political issues if we're looking at one country. A problem that occurs throughout a whole country would normally be political or geopolitical, okay? So if we look at all of Bahrain, a problem that occurs in all of Bahrain would be a national scale problem, okay? Then next, we have this national regional scale, okay? So if we were looking at Bahrain, we'd look at southern Bahrain would be national regional because it's a region of the country. And over here, this red area in the south of the UK, I would say this is national regional. So we're talking about the south and the southwest here of the UK. Okay, and then we have local. So we've got a zoom in here of Manama, we've got Amr Hassan, Adlia. So we're going down to a really small scale here. So we'd call this local scale. And there are problems that would only occur on a local scale. A good way to think about it is if I go back to this map of Bahrain, if there was a problem with air pollution up here where there's the port and the industry in Bahrain, and you've got a lot of toxins going into the air, causing a problem for people up here, all the people that are down here in Durat would not necessarily experience that same problem. So therefore, the problem is a local problem, not a national problem, okay? If there was a problem that affected both the people up here and the people down here, then we could say that's more of a national problem. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is copy these sentences into your notes, okay? And you'll be able to pick the words from this red list to fit into this word gap, okay? Now, if you finish that quickly, and you want to be a bit more challenged, I'd like you to have a go at this extension task where you need to think of a problem that is appropriate for the different scales. Now, maybe there's a bit of a grey area where a problem could occur at a national scale and a national regional scale, which is fine, but as long as your problem makes sense, that's fine. So I've put two examples here. A car crash on the highway by Amr Hassan caused a long queue of traffic all morning, forcing many people to be late for work. This causes a problem at a local scale only, as the traffic would not affect people over in Isa town. So it's only a local scale problem because people in other parts of the island, other parts of the country, are not affected by that problem. Okay? And then I've got here, melting polar ice caps are causing sea level rise, or sea levels to rise around the world. This is a global problem, as sea levels rising on all coastlines will have negative effects on nearly all countries. Now, I know there are some countries that are landlocked, so they're not affected by sea level rise, but generally we could call that a global problem because it's happening across the board, across the globe. Okay. Now, I've also got a Google Doc here. Now, this is a total option. You can either just write out the sentences in your notes like this, or you can open this Google Doc to fill out the problems using the table. That is totally your choice.